Paris, the city of lights and fashion, where glamour and ambition always go hand in hand. The cobblestone streets, the dazzling luxury fashion boutiques standing side by side, and the people carrying grand dreams within them. Amidst the hustle and bustle of this city, one man stands out among the many distinguished figures, Issel Chosen, the talented and cold-hearted CEO of Chosen Enterprises. At the age of 35, Issel is a towering figure in the world of haute couture, holding an empire of luxury brands that span across the globe. Outwardly, he embodies success, handsome, sharp, and powerful. However, behind the perfect suit and composed demeanor lies a heart hardened by the bitterness of betrayal. To Issel, love was never an investment worth making, at least not after his failed marriage to Adrienne Moreau. Adrienne, the woman he once loved, the woman he believed would build a brilliant future with him. But she betrayed him in pursuit of her own ambitions, secretly selling Chosen Enterprises' confidential information to Drake Leclerc, the CEO of Leclerc Couture, his fiercest competitor. When the truth was exposed, their high-profile divorce became the talk of the media, shaking the entire fashion industry. Issel's reputation and the company's image suffered greatly, and even worse, the board of directors began to question his leadership. At an emergency board meeting held at the grand headquarters overlooking the Eiffel Tower, Issel sat at the head of the table, his icy gaze sweeping over the calculating faces of the board members. Richard Belleros, one of the largest stakeholders, spoke up. Issel, I'll get straight to the point. Your divorce has set the media ablaze and severely damaged the company's image. Our rivals, particularly Leclerc Couture, are relentlessly tarnishing Chosen Enterprises' reputation. Issel narrowed his eyes, his fingers interlaced, as he leaned back slightly, his voice calm yet razor-sharp. What exactly do you suggest I do to fix that image, Richard? The middle-aged man leaned back in his chair, his expression calculative. We believe the public needs a new narrative, a picture of stability and trustworthiness. You need to remarry, Issel, and this time, there's no room for mistakes. The room fell into tense silence. Issel felt a wave of fury rise within him, but he knew that in this world, personal feelings could not dictate decisions. The company was everything, and if he wanted to retain control, he had to play by its ruthless rules. You have 6 months, Richard continued. Otherwise, we will have to consider finding a new CEO. Issel let out a cold chuckle, one that didn't reach his eyes. 6 months. A short deadline to find the perfect candidate, and an even shorter time to craft a marriage that could withstand the scrutiny of the media. But he wasn't one to back down easily. If they wanted a wife, he would find one, on his own terms. As the meeting concluded, Issel returned to his office, gazing out at the sparkling lights of Paris beyond the window. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy. He poured himself a glass of wine, contemplating the board's ultimatum. His life had always been about contracts, deals, and strategies. Love and marriage were merely pieces of the larger game. If this was the price to maintain his position, he would turn it into the perfect business transaction, and then fate presented a name, Kaylee Laurent. Not far away, in a small design studio in Le Marais, the heart of unique fashion creations, Kaylee Laurent was immersed in her sketches. At 25, she was a passionate young designer, yearning to create collections that would revolutionize the fashion world. However, her dreams were overshadowed by harsh reality. The medical bills for her ailing mother had drained nearly all of their family's resources, and she was on the brink of financial ruin. Kaylee never imagined her life would intersect with the world of luxury conglomerates like Chosen Enterprises until one day an irresistible offer came her way. A chance encounter at a fashion event caught the attention of Issel Chosen, a man the whole of Paris knew as the Ice King. Issel saw something different in Kaylee, not just talent, but a refreshing authenticity. She wasn't like the women around him. She didn't crave the limelight, nor was she dazzled by fame and fortune. She was someone he could control, the perfect candidate for a contract marriage. At first, Kaylee refused. She didn't want to be part of any charade belonging to that glamorous world. But when Issel presented an offer that could cover her mother's medical expenses and promised a thriving future in fashion, she wavered. The agreement between them began with numbers and conditions. But could they truly maintain the boundaries between business and emotion? And could Estelle really control everything when Kaylee gradually became an irreplaceable part of his life? No one could have predicted that within this sham marriage, both of them would face greater challenges than ever before, not only from the corporate schemes of Drake Leclerc, but also from the unexpected emotions that started to develop between two seemingly opposite souls. Welcome to today's story. Let us know which city you're listening from. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our meaningful daily stories. Chapter 1. The Marriage Contract. Esau Chosen had never believed in love. To him, everything in life had a price and could be controlled, including marriage. After his scandalous divorce from Adrienne Moreau plunged Chosen Enterprises into a whirlwind of rumors and skepticism, the board of directors pressured him to remarry to restore the company's image. They needed a perfect portrayal of a happy family to regain the trust of clients and investors. That evening, in the luxurious office on the top floor of Chosen Enterprises, Esau sat in contemplation, gazing at the shimmering lights of Paris. Before him lay the draft of a marriage contract that Marcus, the head of legal affairs, had just sent over. Every clause had been meticulously crafted down to the finest detail. Esau wanted no part of a marriage based on emotions, something he deemed vague and unreliable. What he needed was a clear transaction, a wife who could keep secrets, had no ties to the glamorous fashion world, and would never ask questions beyond the contract's scope. Kaylee Laurent had no idea her life was about to take a drastic turn when she stepped into Chosen Enterprises on a crisp autumn morning. As a young designer, she had spent her youth working tirelessly for a small brand where she never had the opportunity to shine. Her undeniable talent was overshadowed by financial struggles and the overwhelming cost of her mother's cancer treatment, which had drained her both physically and mentally. She had received an interview invitation from Chosen Enterprises, an opportunity too good to pass up. But the moment she stepped into the opulent lobby, she felt out of place. The gleaming glass walls, the confident strides of high-end models, and the air of power surrounding her made her feel like an outsider. The interview took place in an elegant room with a panoramic view of the city. She sat across from Esau Chosen, the powerful man whom all of Paris admired. His steely gray eyes made her feel as though she was being dissected, but Kaylee refused to show any signs of nervousness. "Miss Laurent," Esau's deep voice resonated, his tone as if he were assessing a product rather than a person. "You do realize that Chosen Enterprises is not a place for dreamers. We need people who are practical and can perform under pressure. Do you think you fit that mold?" Kaylee took a deep breath, steadying her voice. "I'm not a dreamer, Mr. Chosen. I'm a hard worker, and I know my worth." A flicker of approval passed through Esau's eyes. He had done his research. She was talented, had no affiliations with the luxury fashion world, and most importantly, her dire financial situation made her an ideal candidate to accept a marriage proposal if the terms were right. "You are quite impressive, Kaylee," he said, leaning back in his chair, eyes calculating. "But I don't just need a designer. I need a wife." Kaylee froze, staring at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. "Excuse me?" "Let's call it a contract," Esau said bluntly. 2 years. You will play the role of my wife in public, attend corporate events, and in return, I will ensure your mother receives the best medical care available." Kaylee's heart pounded in her chest. Her mother had undergone multiple treatments, and they needed money now more than ever. But entering a marriage contract with this stranger? She stood up, her voice laced with pride. "I am not for sale." Esau raised an eyebrow as if expecting her reaction. Slowly, he slid a file across the desk toward her. "I'm not buying you, Kaylee. I'm offering a solution. Here is enough to cover all of your mother's medical expenses, and more. I will also sponsor your fashion brand once the contract ends." Kaylee stared at the figures, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the paper. It was an amount she could never have imagined. "You can take some time to think," Esau said, his voice low but firm. "But don't take too long. I don't like wasting time." 3 days later, Kaylee returned to Chosen Enterprises. She couldn't refuse. For her mother, for her dreams, and for a future she had never dared to hope for. In the lavish boardroom, Kaylee held the pen in her hand, scanning through the terms of the marriage contract. No personal emotional involvement, Must appear alongside Isel at major fashion events. Absolute confidentiality about the nature of the marriage. No interference in Isel's business decisions. She hesitated for a moment at the first clause. A marriage without feelings? Could it really be that simple? But as she looked into Isel's piercing gaze, waiting for her response, she knew she had no other choice. Do you have any conditions to add? Isel asked, his voice steady. Kaylee placed the pen down, taking a deep breath. I want to continue my design work without interference. Isel nodded without hesitation. Fine, but your work will be under my supervision to avoid any unnecessary risks. Kaylee signed her name, feeling as if she had just stepped into a completely different world, one of luxury, rules, and temptation. Isel stood up and extended his hand. Welcome to my world, Kaylee. She grasped his hand, feeling its coldness, and wondered if she could hold on to herself in this transaction. The very next day, headlines flooded the media. CEO Isel chosen to marry young designer Kaylee Laurent. Photos of them together were plastered everywhere, and Kaylee began her role as the wife of the Ice King of the Paris fashion world. Chapter 2. Unveiling Secrets and Emerging Conflicts. The staged marriage of Isel and Kaylee proceeded exactly as planned. Public appearances filled with perfection, their hands intertwined, and charming smiles dazzling under the flashlights. The media and high society marveled at the image of the powerful couple. However, beyond the dazzling lights, when the grand doors of their luxurious Parisian mansion closed, all that remained between them was a chilling silence. Kaylee immersed herself in her work at the design studio, finding solace in sketches and drafts. Meanwhile, Isel, like an emotionless machine, dedicated all his time to work, with meetings that stretched late into the night. They lived almost in two separate worlds, only coming together when the public image required it. However, one evening, after attending a prestigious summit in Paris, everything changed. After a few glasses of exquisite wine at the hotel lounge, they decided to return home earlier than usual. In the dim glow of the fireplace, the atmosphere softened, and for the first time, they sat down and talked honestly. Under the influence of wine, Kaylee let go of her usual proud facade. Her emerald green eyes reflected the flickering flames as she slowly shared the pressures she had been facing. The malicious whispers in the fashion world, the disdainful glances from those who believed she was just a trophy wife living off her husband's fame. Isel listened, no longer the cold CEO, but a man beginning to recognize the strength and sincerity of the woman in front of him. They talked more, laughed lightly, and little by little, the distance between them seemed to fade. The wine and their newfound connection unintentionally drew them closer. Their first kiss came gently, as if inevitable, then deepened, filled with longing. Isel led Kaylee to her room, not with calculation or reason, but purely out of emotion. Yet when he touched her, a flicker of uncertainty appeared in Kaylee's clear eyes. Kaylee, his voice was husky, his gaze fixed on her. You've never... She bit her lip, a blush creeping onto her cheeks, and nodded softly. I never have, Isel. At that moment, an unfamiliar emotion swept over Isel. Surprise, reverence, and a touch of apprehension. Kaylee's innocence didn't pressure him. Instead, it was her honesty and pure vulnerability that made him realize that their marriage was no longer just a contract. He gently kissed her forehead, his voice low and warm. We don't have to rush, Kaylee. That night, they simply lay next to each other, Isel holding her in his strong embrace, as if protecting something more precious than any wealth he had ever possessed. However, that moment of tenderness didn't last long. The very next day, Adrienne, Isel's ex-wife, returned with plans to wreak havoc. She began appearing at events, dropping subtle hints about Isel and Kaylee's relationship, fueling rumors that their marriage was nothing more than a cold-hearted contract. Adrienne also started sending anonymous letters to Kaylee, filled with sharp words that targeted her deepest insecurities. Do you think you can replace me? Isel is only using you, just as he did with me. The venomous words sent chills down Kaylee's spine, but she resolved not to let Adrienne win. Isel discovered the letters one day when he accidentally saw Kaylee hiding them in a drawer in her studio. He was furious, not at Adrienne's cruel words, but at Kaylee for enduring it alone without telling him. "You don't have to face this alone," he said, his eyes filled with unwavering determination. "I won't let her hurt you." From that day on, Isel became more present in Kaylee's life. He started noticing the little details about her, standing by her side not just for appearances, but as a silent protector. Whether in work or personal life, he made sure she wasn't alone. One evening, Kaylee overheard a conversation between Isel and Marcus, his close friend and financial advisor, as she passed by his study. "Drake has been quietly acquiring a significant amount of shares." Isel's voice was low but tense. "If we don't act soon, he'll take control of Chosen Enterprises." Kaylee's heart clenched. She couldn't believe Isel was facing such a major threat without telling her. But instead of feeling left out, she was determined to stand by him and prove that she wasn't just a contractual wife, but a true partner. Despite their growing closeness, an invisible barrier still lingered between them. Isel couldn't easily open his heart. The wounds from his past marriage still haunted him. He feared that this budding relationship was just another illusion, a fleeting moment before everything collapsed again. Kaylee, understanding his fears, knew that their relationship was nothing more than a contract. Yet she still harbored the hope that, with her sincerity, she could convince him that love wasn't just a high-stakes gamble, something he should be afraid to invest in. Chapter 3. Love begins to bloom. Although Kaylee had repeatedly reminded herself that her relationship with Isel was nothing more than a contractual marriage, her heart gradually betrayed her reason. She couldn't stop herself from feeling drawn to the small gestures he made. Like how Isel always remembered she preferred her coffee unsweetened in the morning, or how he would leave a sketch pad on her desk without needing to ask. These seemingly insignificant details meant the world to Kaylee, proving that he was slowly opening up to her, even if just a little. Each morning, as the sunlight filtered through the curtains of their grand mansion, Isel would quietly stand from afar, watching Kaylee as she sketched her new designs with intense focus. He never intruded on her space, but his silent presence made her feel safe in a way she had never expected. Gradually, their interactions went beyond mere public appearances at lavish parties. They began to share peaceful moments, sitting by the fireplace, sipping wine, and talking about work and life. Kaylee realized that Isel was not as cold as he portrayed himself to the world. Behind his sharp exterior was a man who had once loved, once believed in marriage, but had also been deeply wounded. A business trip to the south of France provided a rare opportunity for them to spend private time away from the dazzling lights of extravagant galas and the pressures of their careers. The golden sunshine of Provence softened the tension they were accustomed to in Paris. Kaylee would never forget that afternoon when they stood in the middle of an endless lavender field, the gentle breeze tousling her hair across her face. In that moment, she saw something different in Isel's eyes, a tenderness, a fleeting sadness. "Have you ever believed in love?" Kaylee asked, her clear eyes gazing into his. Isel remained silent for a long moment before responding, his voice softer than usual. "I did, but it destroyed me." He turned away, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon. "My previous marriage was a mistake. Adrian only loved my ambition, not me." Kaylee reached out and gently touched his hand, a small but comforting gesture. "Not everyone is like her, Isel." He looked down at her hand, small yet strong, and for the first time he did not pull away. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange no more words were needed. A quiet attraction had existed between them for a while, but this time, it burned stronger than ever. Kaylee, unable to contain the rapid beating of her heart, stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. A gentle kiss, but one that spoke volumes of the emotions she had been suppressing for so long. Isel did not resist. Instead, he responded with a surprising tenderness. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer as if afraid she would slip away if he let go. In that moment, Kaylee knew she was no longer just a wife on paper. She had truly fallen in love with Isel. Chapter 4. The Marriage Contract Exposed. The atmosphere at Chosen Enterprises was more tense than ever when news of Isel and Kaylee's marriage contract was leaked to the public. Leading financial newspapers and social media platforms were flooded with satirical articles, accusing their marriage of being nothing more than a stage act to maintain control over the company. A video provided by Adrian showing the signed contract with all its terms and conditions, spread rapidly, igniting a public outcry. Investors were alarmed, and Chosen Enterprises' stock prices began to plummet uncontrollably. In an emergency board meeting, the pressure mounted as the board members demanded an explanation. The chairman, a seasoned businessman with sharp eyes, tapped his fingers lightly on the table, his voice authoritative. "ISIL, this is an embarrassment to the company's reputation. We cannot allow a sham marriage to tarnish the credibility of Chosen Enterprises. If you cannot provide a satisfactory solution, we will have no choice but to ask you to step down." ISIL sat frozen. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do. Every plan, every strategy he had meticulously crafted crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny and Adrian's betrayal. But when he looked at Kaylee, standing beside him with unwavering faith in her eyes, he realized he couldn't continue to run away. This was no longer just about the company. It was about the woman he had come to love. With a remarkable sense of calm, Kaylee stepped forward. Her voice, steady and composed, resonated through the boardroom. "You may question the original contract, but you cannot question the feelings we have for each other. Yes, initially, this marriage was a business arrangement, but over time, it has grown into something much greater." She looked each board member in the eye, her words filled with sincerity. "I have witnessed ISIL's relentless dedication to this company. He is not only a brilliant CEO, but also a man deeply committed to his responsibilities. That is why I am here, not because of a contract, but because of the love I have for him and my belief in the future of Chosen Enterprises." A long silence followed her words. The board members exchanged glances, and a few of them slowly nodded in agreement. ISIL squeezed her hand tightly, feeling a rare sense of relief wash over him for the first time in weeks. After a moment of contemplation, the chairman sighed and nodded. "We will need time to reconsider, but you must prove that Chosen Enterprises will not suffer because of this scandal." Following the meeting, Isel and Kaylee held an urgent press conference to face the media head-on, in front of dozens of cameras and journalists eager to expose any cracks in their facade. Isel took Kaylee's hand. For the first time in his life, he set aside logic and let his heart speak. "I love Kaylee," he declared firmly. "Yes, at first our marriage was based on a contract, but what we have now is real. I never thought I would find someone like her, someone who has made me believe in love and sincerity again." The reporters buzzed with excitement, but Isel's gaze remained unwavering. He continued, "And we will not let anyone tear this apart. I will fight to protect not only my happiness, but also the company I have dedicated my life to building." His words, coupled with Kaylee's unwavering support by his side, began to shift the public narrative. The media gradually turned their focus from scandal to romance, portraying their relationship as a touching love story amid the cold, calculated world of business. Public sentiment softened, and support for them grew stronger. Despite the temporary stability, Isel and Kaylee remained cautious. They knew that Drake Leclerc and Adrian were still lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike again. With the help of Isel's legal team and a few trusted employees, they started tracking suspicious financial activities linked to Drake. Late one night, as Kaylee pored over financial records, she stumbled upon an unusual transaction routed through a Swiss shell company. She immediately called Isel and Marcus, his financial advisor. After hours of analysis, they uncovered irrefutable evidence. Drake had been bribing key shareholders to force Isel out while planning a massive stock sell-off to manipulate the market. The following day, at another board meeting, Isel presented the evidence in front of the shareholders. Emails, financial transactions, and even recorded conversations between Drake and Adrian were displayed on the screen, leaving the entire room in stunned silence. Adrian stood there, her face pale with shock, while Drake was promptly arrested on charges of fraud and insider trading. With the truth exposed, confidence in Isil's leadership was restored. Shareholders rallied behind him, and he retained his position as CEO of Chosen Enterprises. A few months after the storm had passed, Chosen Enterprises not only regained its reputation, but also soared to even greater heights thanks to Isil's strategic reforms and Kaylee's invaluable support. No longer just a contract wife, Kaylee had become an indispensable part of both Isil's life and his career. At the grand launch of a new project, The atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Guests from across the fashion industry, journalists, and investors filled the elegant venue, eager to witness the next chapter of Chosen Enterprises' success. As Isel stepped onto the stage to deliver his speech, all eyes were on him. However, instead of standing alone under the spotlight, he did something unexpected. He reached out, took Kaylee's hand, and gently pulled her to his side. "She is not just my wife," his deep, steady voice echoed through the hall. "She is the one who helped me regain my faith, the woman I love, and my future." A hush fell over the crowd, followed by a wave of applause. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment that symbolized far more than a business partnership. It was a declaration of love that had been forged through trials and perseverance. Kaylee looked up at him, a radiant smile gracing her lips. In that moment, she knew that after everything they had endured, they had found each other, not through a contract, but through the genuine love they had nurtured amidst life's challenges. And as they stood together under the bright lights, they both realized that their journey was just beginning, built not on terms and conditions, but on trust, resilience, and an unbreakable bond. Chapter 5, A Happy Ending. With all the schemes and dangers behind them, Aisel and Kaylee's lives gradually returned to a peaceful rhythm. Amidst the bustling pace of Paris, they cherished the simple moments together without the lingering worries of the past or the threats from their enemies. Each passing day, Evil realized that his love for Kaylee was not just admiration or responsibility, but a profound and genuine feeling, deeper than he had ever imagined. On a crisp autumn afternoon, with golden leaves scattered across the garden of their mansion, Isel prepared something special. He took Kaylee to Mont Saint-Michel, a place she had long dreamed of visiting. As the golden sunset reflected off the shimmering sea, he knelt down holding a small velvet box. His eyes filled with love as they met hers. "Kaylee," his voice was husky with emotion, "the first time we married, it was just a contract. But this time, I'm asking you with all my heart, will you marry me, not out of obligation, but out of true love?" Kaylee stared at him, her blue eyes glistening with tears. She couldn't believe that the once cold and distant man now stood before her with such warmth and sincerity. Without hesitation, she smiled and nodded, tears of happiness rolling down her cheeks. "Yes, Isel," she whispered, throwing her arms around him. Applause erupted from a few tourists nearby who had witnessed the heartfelt moment. Isel gently slipped the exquisite diamond ring onto her finger, pulling her into his embrace. In that moment, they both knew that nothing could ever separate them again. Their wedding took place in a picturesque Provence chateau, surrounded by endless fields of lavender. Kaylee chose an elegant gown adorned with intricate lace details, reflecting the timeless French style she had always adored. Isel, in a perfectly tailored black suit, never took his eyes off her, even for a moment. The ceremony unfolded under the golden hues of the evening sun, surrounded by close friends and family. Rain, Isel's younger sister, served as the maid of honor and couldn't contain her emotions seeing her brother finally find true happiness. Marcus, his loyal friend and business partner, officiated the wedding with a proud voice. "Isel and Kaylee, today you are united not only by a vow, but by the challenges you have overcome together. May your life be filled with love and happiness." As Isel slipped the wedding band onto Kaylee's finger and whispered, "I love you," amidst the soft melody of classical French music, Kaylee knew that her dream had finally come true. They danced under the twinkling lights, swaying to the gentle rhythm of an old French love song, and in his arms, she felt a sense of security and love like never before. After the wedding, Kaylee was able to fully pursue her dream of becoming an influential fashion designer. With Isel's unwavering support, she launched her own brand, K Chosen, where she had the freedom to express her creativity and unique style. Her focus was not only on haute couture, but also on sustainable and eco-friendly collections, something she had always been passionate about. Together, they established the Chosen Foundation, a charity aimed at supporting young designers from underprivileged backgrounds. The foundation provided not only financial aid, but also opportunities for mentorship and professional training with top industry experts. One evening, as they sat on the terrace of their mansion, overlooking the glittering Paris skyline, Isel gently took Kaylee's hand. I used to think that success meant conquering new markets and billion-dollar deals, he said thoughtfully. But you taught me that true success is creating something meaningful, something lasting. Kaylee smiled and leaned her head against his shoulder. I believe we can achieve even greater things as long as we have each other. He pressed a tender kiss onto her hair, his eyes filled with love. I'm grateful that I found you, Kaylee. One morning as the sun slowly rose over Paris, Isel and Kaylee strolled down the cobblestone streets hand in hand, blending in with the other couples. There were no more contracts, no more barriers, only love and trust between them. We've come such a long way, Kaylee whispered, taking a deep breath, feeling the crisp Parisian breeze. From a contract marriage to a real family. Isel stopped, turning to her with gentle eyes. I never regret signing that contract, he smiled, because without it, I wouldn't have found you. They shared a sweet kiss under the soft morning light, with the distant sound of church bells ringing. And in that moment, they embarked on a new chapter of their lives, one free from obligations, filled only with love and a lifelong partnership. Paris, the city of love, had witnessed a romance that seemed straight out of a novel, but turned out to be the most beautiful reality of all. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Let us know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. What type of stories would you like to hear next? Don't forget to like, share this story, and subscribe to our channel.